Hi, my name is Nicholas Kim, and today I will be discussing my research presentation. And it is about how the marginalized find community online and how do they use that to challenge oppression and to push against it, right? This is a topic I've become very passionate about, especially after like my many years online and experiencing a lot of the stuff I've actually researched here. And I've always wanted to look into like, hey, how does this work? How do we even develop these communities? What's the reasoning behind it and stuff like that? And like I had baseline information, but I feel like this research really nailed in exactly everything I'm seeing, right? Table of contents. So we just went over the title, right? And in the future, I'll be going through my research question, my why. Like, why did I choose to research this? And the thesis, all the evidence backing my thesis, right? And the conclusion. Now, a quick little overview of what I'm going to be covering in my presentation today. I want to introduce my research question, followed by the reasons why this question is significant, and then I'll discuss like my thesis statement, and I'll present evidence gathered from these sources that I have, right? And address the potential counter arguments as well, and conclude with the directions for future research of what I want shown and what I want to be interested in, and what I want to read in the future, right? And then I will share my list of references at the end. So, this is Stevie Wonder, and a quote that I feel like really matches well with what I was researching and what I was looking towards was, "We all have ability. The difference is how we use it." And I love Stevie Wonder, by the way. Um, Digital spaces. So we're discussing here digital spaces. And what are digital spaces exactly? So digital spaces are little pockets online and various social media of different groups of people congregating together and, establishing, hey, this is what we like. This is I like this. This is good. This specific thing or anything like that, and it's talking about all the little things that are going on within a certain community, right? And there could be even sub groups within those people. Like notice how there are different like you scroll a little too long on Instagram, you're ended up in a weird spot. That's a different digital space, and from what I've seen, right? Um, So social media is used as a complex tool, and it offers marginalized people different opportunities to build community within those digital spaces, right? And it does present challenges as well because there can be various opinions in those spaces. There could even be bad actors that do poor things in those spaces, right? Which can lead to inequity in the digital space. So my research question is understanding how marginalized groups, how do they use social media, right? How do they build community with that? How do they resist oppression, right? How do they improve their own mental health because of the issues they've had to deal with regarding that oppression, right? And how do they defend both online and offline challenges that they face? Because a lot of the times these social media groups, they come together to protest, they come together to their local, to their local state representatives. They push for change. A lot of these times they push for change, and there are issues they face while doing that, right? A lot of the times their rights could be taken away, their livelihoods could even be taken away. And each of these aspects is what I'm going to be exploring in detail throughout this presentation. So why does this matter? This research is very important for several reasons. Well, first and foremost, my bad. So first and foremost, right, it brings a voice to the marginalized, provides a platform for individuals and groups who are often silenced or ignored, right? And my bad, experiencing technical difficulties here. And it has become an essential tool for women to speak up about their experiences. And like, for example, let me go back. The Me Too movement, right? And by bringing attention to these issues, we can push for societal change and challenge and change the status quo. For example, there are many women online who say, hey, my boss or somebody I know, somebody I went to school with, they did things. And they did things that I wouldn't want to name right now, but they did things and they don't appreciate them, and we need to let everybody know, hey, we cannot have this around here. We cannot have these people going to our schools. We can't have these people going, being your teachers, your bosses. You know what I mean? And I feel like that is really great, and I think that really bringing that out and letting everybody know what's up is important, right? So we're going to be discussing algorithmic bias and online harassment as well. So algorithmic bias, we'll start off with that, is the use of algorithms to perpetuate and amplify discrimination, even if it's not on purpose. So there are times where algorithms, they are trained on a specific group of people far more often than others. And it couldn't even be on purpose, right? Like, let's say, for example, Google, their facial recognition works a lot better on white people versus people of darker complexion. That's not because that they are inherently racist for doing that. They might have not even thought about it. And so sometimes with darker skinned people, it will say, hey, this person looks exactly like that person. That's the same person. And they could look completely different. And this could go even worse by this happening, and it could lead to targeting by law enforcement with this facial recognition software saying, hey, this person did this crime, and they couldn't even have been there, right? And this has been documented thoroughly. And I'll show you the study. It's from Benjamin. Despite facing these significant challenges, though, and like the online harassment, the algorithmic biases, and the digital exclusion that they often face, these marginalized groups are able to use social media, and they're able to create a much more supportive community and environment online and in person, so they can push for societal change, right? They're able to develop this resilience and this like power. It sounds kind of corny for me to say this kind of power to defend themselves, even if it's just online, and I feel like it could translate to real life as well. And the systemic reform that they're really pushing for, I really think they could do it in spite of the social inequality. So, here are some effective strategies you can use for engagement. So, hashtag activism. Using hashtags to connect and amplify each other's voices and to bring up important things, right? We bringing up and being like before with Me Too, hashtag Me Too. We are bringing up these women who are exposing themselves. Not, I wouldn't say it like that. Who are like letting the world know, hey, this is what happened. And another strategy would be counter narratives, as you see on the left. Counter narratives are creating and sharing a counter narrative. So narrative by itself means a story that's being pushed by certain groups of people or certain people who want to change something, who want to change this story, right? And that counter narrative is pushing for the truth. We are pushing out, hey, this is the truth. This is actually what happened on this day. This is what actually happened at this protest. So it could protect these people from these harmful stereotypes that a lot of the general population have against certain people. For example, a common stereotype with me is I'm good at math. I'm the furthest thing from it, right? And that could be harmful to me in particular, because is my value worse because I'm bad at math? Or do you see me as not a true version of me by being bad at math? You know what I mean? And, I feel like pushing for to counter these narratives, to really look at everybody based off their character, not of what they look like, right? continuing on. The real and larger purpose of this, it's to create an equitable space. It's to change policy and like make everything more inclusive, make our schools, make our online spaces more inclusive. I think that's all the most important things that we got to do. From this research, this is what I've gathered. So by equitable spaces this is what I mean. I mean anywhere online, anywhere in person, I think people should be treating each other fairly, and fairly does not mean equal, right? Equal is everybody getting the same thing. Not everybody deserves the same thing, right? There are some people who require different levels of attention. There are some people who require different levels of care, right? You can't give them all the exact same thing because they are not all in the same situation or circumstance. And by changing policy, I am talking about changing the way the laws are regarding these online spaces as well. So a lot of the times there's a level of anonymity online where people think they can get away with a lot of things, right? They'll say these things anonymously, by the way, which are hurtful, harmful, and incredibly just disrespectful to where it can draw some of these people into suicide, which is wrong, right? But the anonymity that the internet provides, you can't track these people sometimes. Sometimes you cannot track these people, and they are left unpunished for a terrible crime that they have committed. And inclusivity. I believe that everybody of every race, of every religion, of all walks of life, they should be able to be online. They should be able to have a seat at the table, have their voice heard, right? I think that is one of the larger purposes of my research here. My thesis. So, my thesis is that despite facing significant challenges, such as online harassment, algorithmic bias, and digital exclusion, these marginalized groups are able to use social media to create a much more supportive community, to push for real societal change, and develop like a thicker skin as people, and to accept that like we might be at the shorter end of the stick, but we have to be better, right? And we could create these strategies for keeping ourselves mentally well in spite of all these things happening to us, right? And as well as creating systemic reform in spite of this social inequality or inequity that they face. And I think it's incredibly remarkable, and I think the resilience and the tactfulness and the resourcefulness is it's very impressive to me, right? So, some counter arguments to this. A lot of people online are saying, or a lot of people in general are saying that social media is harmful. It is inherently harmful because of the cyberbullying and a lot of the issues, like I mentioned earlier, of the anonymity. A lot of cyberbullying and misinformation can be spread. This, of course, is terrible, which can lead to these negative mental health outcomes and like I said earlier, the suicide and stuff like that, which is terrible, right? Another argument would be online activism it can be seen as performative, and it doesn't lead to any real change, is what they're saying, and is often dismissed as like slacktivism, which is what they call it, which is like posting a black square and saying, hey, thoughts and prayers. That it doesn't really do much unless you put some change into it. You gotta push for some change, right? Which I believe that to a certain degree myself, but I don't believe it is as black and white as they're making it. My response to this is, although social media can be very harmful and it can lead to a lot of negative outcomes, I feel like the good outweighs the bad in terms of people finding support and community, as well as creating these open spaces in real life as well. Like at protests, these people can find each other and be like, hey, I think similar to you. We need to come together. We need to push for some change. And I feel like that can easily translate to the real world. And onto the point about slacktivism, it is definitely a real thing. I've seen it myself. I know that it exists, right? But I don't think that because some people are lazy and some people are doing it for the look or some people are doing it for the fashion, I don't think that discounts any of the real people out there putting in that work. I don't think it discounts all the real online activism that actually helps these people. For example, GoFundMe. A lot of these people on GoFundMe, they will support each other. The community will support each other. They'll even send money out of the country to support people in war-torn nations such as Gaza. All of this money is very real, and it does support these families actually. It does actually support these people, and it really puts these people in a better space than they were before without the online activism. And I don't think you could take away from that. In conclusion, social media is a critical aspect of our culture in the modern day, and this aspect is used as a tool, and it is by these marginalized groups to stand up to oppression. And what needs to be researched more in the future, I believe that there should be a long-term study on the impact of these online communities on the mental health as well that comes from it. Because like I said earlier, the mental health outcomes from my counter-argument are very true. A lot of people suffer very poor mental health online, and I want to find the legislation, the algorithmic changes, or any other changes that would support these people getting better mental health outcomes, right? Something else I want to see researched in the future would be policy changes, like I mentioned earlier, just making the space more equitable, right? I feel like a policy change would greatly benefit not only what's going on now or what will go on in the future, especially since removing the level of anonymity that they have now, I think it would just really fix a lot of these things. I need to research it more though. But another thing that I feel like would need to be looked at too is studies on these various platforms and the impacts of what has happened to these marginalized groups because of some of these platforms. Have they grown? Have they increased any? And would it be correlational or would it be causational, right? So you could say, hey, ever since the 21st century and the internet was made, more gay people are here. The internet's making people gay. That's not how it works. That's not how statistics works. Because it's more open, it doesn't change the amount of gay people, right? So it's one of those studies where I would love to look into the future and see, hey, what really is going on? And here's the end with my research and all the references I have used. And so let's look into specific references that I like. So I liked the Race After Technology, the Abolitionist Tools for the New Jim Code by Ruha Benjamin. And it basically discusses what I said earlier about the algorithm and its biases. So it is discussing the algorithm and how it may have these biases, these inherent biases that are not necessarily overt, but they still end up having these discriminatory outcomes, right? Something else I'd also discuss is the exploration of marginalized communities and social innovation in the digital age. I feel like the research heavily supported me. I think that a lot of what they said led me in the right direction and finding my other sources, as well as giving me a baseline of understanding for all of this. Anyways, thank you so much. I am out of time, but I really appreciate you for sitting here and listening to me yap about online online communities. And I hope you have a great day. Have a good one.